54-year-old lady, a diabetic with dyslipidemia. She presented with chest pain of 1 hour duration. ECG at presentation revealed ST coving with T inversions L2, L3 AVF, and by the time she came to our emergency, the ECG normalized. A troponin was done, and a troponin, high sensitivity troponin was 642 nanograms per liter. An echo revealed normal LV function. As would be the strategy, we went for an early invasive approach because of her status, diabetic status, and elevated troponin. She was taken up for coronary angiography. In the aravopodal view is showing an critical stenosis, about 90% stenosis extending from the ostium of the ramus to the to the early part of the ramus. Next view, and we can also note that there is an LAD lesion which is of intermediate severity in the mid LAD right after the diagonal. RCA is showing intermediate stenosis in the distal RCA and a critical stenosis of the PDA. There is about 90% stenosis of the right coronary artery in the PDA. We plan to do a PTCA of this patient, and the most important thing is identification of the culprit lesion. This is an NSTEMI. Whether the culprit lesion is in the PDA or is it the ramus is a mute question. So we thought that the RCA was the critical lesion in view of the changes in the ECG, and we decided to proceed with the RCA angioplasty first. So this is my team, Rama, Ramakrishna, and Anil, my colleague, Dr. Anil Mahapatro. So we thought we will proceed with the angioplasty of the right coronary. Doing this right coronary angioplasty is we note that there is a normal segment between the distal RCA and the PDA. So should we include the entire lesion and stent right from the distal RCA into the PDA? There's a significant size discrepancy issues. And also the other thing we were thinking was, should we do a focal stenting? Just stent the PDA, and basically you would have realized that this is a 0-1-0 lesion Medina, and we thought we'll do a provisional approach, stent into the PDA, treat the PLV as the side branch. So we took the FFR wire, we equalized at the ostium of the thing, and we now place the FFR wire distal to the lesion in the distal RCA. So I placed the wire into the PLV, and then I measured the shows that is 0.99, so it is not significant in the PLV branch. So now I go into the PDA to record the RFR into the PDA. So I did that, and to convince the non-believers, and the RFR value is 0.80. So it is a highly significant lesion, and we decided we will stent the PDA, provisional approach, the focal stenting, RFR distal to the, in between the lesions. That is between the RCA lesion and the PDA lesion, and I found that the RFR was 0.93. So it's only the PDA lesion which is significant. The RCA lesion in the distal RCA is not significant, but we will go ahead with the OCT to note if there is a vulnerable plaque. If there is a vulnerable plaque, maybe I would use 1 or 2 stents to cover the entire RCA. But if I find that there is no vulnerable plaque, I would just do a stenting of the PDA with keeping in mind a provisional approach. To do the OCT, before doing the OCT, I pre-dilated the lesion because it's a very critical lesion, and the opacification will not be good if we do the OCT without the, you can see the OCT catheter which is coming in. I had a significant difficulty in passing the OCT into the distal lesion in view of the guide catheter backing out, which will impede opacification and will not be able to get clear images. So I had to rotate my guide clockwise so that I could push the OCT catheter inside. So that, but I could just get it beyond the lesion in PDA and I could get it no further. If you have problems like this in pushing the OCT catheter down, the recommended approach would be to use a guideliner catheter to place the OCT catheter with certainty inside, and the opacification would be good to get good OCT. So we are getting the OCT pictures. You can see the catheter moving behind. You can see that the distance is very important. And while as I was explaining the complication of VF during the procedure, so we had a VF because though we pre-dilated, possibly the stasis of contrast in the artery has created a VF and we successfully converted it. Could not place the PDA, the OCT catheter in the PDA distal to the actual lesion. I could just place it just beyond the first lesion in the PDA. So basically my length measurements would not match. The reference lumen distally was 2.75 if we take the lumen to lumen measurement, and if we take the EL to EL measurement, it is 3.4. So as you all know, according to the Illumin criteria, we have to go quarter size up if we are taking the lumen measurements and a quarter size down if we are taking the EL to EL measurement. So we decided to take a 3 stent and we decided to take a 328 stent, and we also saw the proximal landing zone. The RCA is a huge RCA, and again the EL to EL measurement was 4.1 proximally, and if you take the lumen measurement it is 3.3. So a good bargain would be to do a 3.5 stent and go to higher pressures. So as you have noted, we wired the PLV branch also, and now we are taking a 328 stent across, and we have noted the distal RCA lesion, and we have found that there is no plaque. So there's no vulnerable plaque. There is a plaque, but we don't find any thin cap fibroatherioma or something which would suggest a future rupture. So we decided to do with a focal stenting and leave the proximal RCA lesion, the distal RCA lesion for medical management. As we also noted by physiology that it is not significant, by anatomy we have found that there is no vulnerable plaque or thin cap fibroatherioma. So this is the approach which may be the future in non-culprit lesions, using not only an FFR but also using a combination of OCT and FFR, which is currently being studied in the combined trial. As you've noted, we wired the PLV and we stented across the PLV using the provisional approach. We used a 328 stent and we went to nominal pressures to avoid a distal dissection, and we made sure that a portion of the stent is proximal to the crux so that we can use a pot balloon. We plan to use a 3.56 to do a pot. We did pot with a 3.56 proximal to the PLV. So we went up to 14-16 atmospheres, and then we used a non-compliant balloon, but even a compliant balloon can be used to do pot, at which point we have to use lower pressures than what we did. And we noted that there is no plaque shift into the PLV. And we also dilated, procedure was over our post-dilatation in the PDA. We did a final OCT run, and that showed no distal stent dissection at the distal end of the stent. We also noted that the side branch osteoma with 3D bifurcation view, there is no strut which is covering the TLV branch, and we also noted good apposition of the stem struts, and we got good MSAs, as you can see on the Hook City run, with areas ranging distally from 6.7 to 9.4 proximally. So this is a good well-opposed stem. We did a post RFR, and we got a value of 0.95. You would have noted previously our value was 0.80. Post procedure, the RFR value is 0.95, and we know that this is the values indicates a lower MACE rates at 1 and 2 years. With post procedure values are validated more for FFR than for the resting indices, and we know that an FFR value more than 0.95 it gives a MACE rate of just 4.6% over 1 year. In the RCA angioplasty, we came to the circumflex. So we dilated the circumflex. As you have noted, the circumflex was a tricky lesion because we had to stent from the ostium of the circumflex. It was a 2.5 vessel, but it was showing 90% stenosis. So we decided to stent from the ostium of the circumflex. So we pre-dilated the circumflex with a tube balloon. It was a non-compliant balloon at 22 atmospheres because already we had a tube weight on the table. We used it to pre-dilate the circumflex. After pre-dilatation, we decided to stent the circumflex with a 2.518 stent from the ostium. So as we were stenting from the ostium, we wanted to keep a wire in the LAD. So for that purpose, we kept the wire, the RFR wire into the LAD. So this could measure the RFR as well as be useful to us when we are stenting the ostium of the LCS. So when we placed the the FFR wire in the LAD and measured the RFR, it was 0.95. That it was well above the cutoff of 0.91. So we decided to leave the LAD for medical management, and now we decided to stent the circumflex ostium with a 2.518 Zansby stent, and we went up to 12 atmospheres, and it was a short stent, and it was showing good expansion of the stent, and as it was a soft lesion, we decided not to post dilate, and we completed the procedure in this patient. In view of the contrast fluid, we did not do the OCT or the LCS. So in effect, in conclusion, what was a culprit lesion in the RCA, which we decided to stent with a single stent crossover approach, and with the help of physiology and with the help of OCT, we have decided to leave the proximal RCA lesion, the distal RCA lesion, and we decided to stent just the PDA with a crossover approach. So as the RFR was not significant in the RCA lesion, and as the OCT showed no culprit lesion, we left it alone. So we decided to stent just the circumflex, and as it is very, very important to assess the non-culprit lesions in patients with acute coronary syndromes.